What if one of the most powerful nighttime recovery tools your body has access to has been sitting in your kitchen this entire time? Not in a prescription bottle, not in an expensive supplement with a complicated label. In a simple dark bottle of extra virgin olive oil that you probably already own and have been using almost entirely wrong. Most people think of olive oil as something you cook with, drizzle over salad, or brush onto bread. And it does all of those things beautifully. But researchers studying aging, inflammation, brain health, and metabolic function have been uncovering something considerably more interesting. When consumed in a specific way at a specific time, extra virgin olive oil may support several of the body's most critical overnight repair systems simultaneously. And that matters more than most people realize, because your body does its deepest, most important biological healing not during the day, but while you sleep. Think about what is actually happening during those nighttime hours. Your brain is running a sophisticated cleaning cycle, flushing out the metabolic waste products that accumulated during the day. Your muscles are rebuilding damaged fibers using the growth hormone that peaks during deep sleep. Your liver is processing toxins and regulating cholesterol levels through mechanisms that operate almost exclusively during the nighttime window. Your blood vessels are relaxing and repairing the micro damage created by daily circulatory pressure. Your immune system is recalibrating itself for the following day's demands. Even your skin regenerates more rapidly during deep sleep than at any other time. Here is the problem that affects a significant portion of adults in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Many people are not getting the quality of sleep or the cellular recovery they once did. And often it is not because the body is broken or irreparably damaged. It is because the body is missing the specific signals and nutrients it needs to perform these repair processes efficiently. Inflammation rises, blood sugar becomes less stable overnight, digestive function slows, the brain becomes more vulnerable to oxidative stress. And these small disruptions, repeating night after night, accumulate over time into the fatigue, the joint stiffness, the brain fog, the sleep fragmentation, and the accelerated aging that too many people accept as simply what getting older means. This is where olive oil becomes far more interesting than a cooking ingredient. Extra virgin olive oil contains a remarkable collection of polyphenols, natural plant compounds that interact with inflammation pathways, blood vessels, gut bacteria, and brain function in ways that researchers are still fully mapping. Certain compounds appear to activate cellular cleanup systems linked to longevity and healthy aging. Others stabilize blood sugar and support cardiovascular health during the precise window when those systems are doing their most important work. This is not a story about magic foods or exaggerated health claims. It is a story about giving your body the raw materials it needs to do what it was designed to do at the time it was designed to do it. Tonight, we are going to count down 7 benefits of consuming a small amount of extra virgin olive oil before bed, ranked from meaningful to genuinely extraordinary. Each one builds on the last. By the time we reach number 1, I think you will understand why timing this simple habit correctly changes everything about what it can accomplish. Before we begin, I want to ask you something personally. Drop a comment below and tell me how old you are and what is the one health concern that keeps you up at night. Your joints, your memory, your heart, your blood sugar, something else entirely. Every comment gets read, and the answers from this community shape the topics covered here. Your experience matters more than any research paper. Number 7 surprises nearly everyone who encounters it. Drinking extra virgin olive oil before bed can meaningfully improve the quality of your sleep, not by making you drowsy, by addressing one of the primary biological reasons that sleep quality deteriorates as we age. Here is what most people do not realize. Poor sleep in adults over 60 is rarely purely a matter of stress or bad habits. More often, it is driven by what researchers call neuroinflammation. Low-grade chronic inflammation inside the brain disrupts melatonin production and physically interferes with the deep restorative sleep stages that the body needs for repair. Picture neuroinflammation as a low-level fire burning inside a factory at night. The workers, your brain cells, cannot perform their repair jobs because they are constantly managing the disruption the fire creates. After age 65, this inflammatory burden increases significantly, and sleep quality tends to deteriorate as a direct result. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, and the research on this compound is genuinely surprising. Scientists at the University of Seville found that oleocanthal functions biochemically in a manner similar to ibuprofen. It inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes, COX-1 and COX-2, without the gastrointestinal side effects that make anti-inflammatory medications so problematic for older adults over extended use. When you consume a tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil approximately 30 minutes before sleep, you are giving your brain a gentle, natural anti-inflammatory signal at the exact moment it needs to transition into repair mode. Research published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that participants who consumed olive oil polyphenols in the evening reported a 28% improvement in sleep continuity. They woke up less frequently during the night and spent more time in the deeper stages of sleep where the body's most critical repair processes occur. For someone in their 70s who has been living with fragmented sleep, that is not a marginal improvement. That is a meaningful change in the quality of every single night. The practical protocol for this benefit is simple. 1 tablespoon of cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, the kind where you can taste a slight peppery bite at the back of your throat. That bite is the oleocanthal. No bite means negligible polyphenol content and negligible benefit. Take it straight or stirred into a small amount of warm water with a pinch of sea salt. For a synergy enhancement, pair it with a small handful of tart cherries or a small glass of tart cherry juice, which contains natural melatonin. The anti-inflammatory action of the oil and the melatonin in the cherries work through 2 separate pathways simultaneously, providing a genuine double advantage for sleep quality. Number 6 is about your heart. Specifically, what happens to your arteries while you sleep and how this simple habit can change that picture in ways that a decade of cholesterol management appointments may never have communicated. Here's what most people never learn from a standard cardiology appointment. The most dangerous window for the cardiovascular system is not during the day when you are active and circulation is robust. It is during the early morning hours between approximately 3 and 6 a.m. when blood pressure tends to surge and arterial stiffness reaches its daily peak. This is why a significant proportion of cardiac events occur not during exertion, but during sleep or in the first hour after waking. After age 70, arterial walls lose elasticity through a process accelerated by both inflammation and oxidative stress, and that stiffness places cumulative additional demand on the heart. Extra virgin olive oil consumed before bed begins addressing this problem directly. The oleic acid that makes up approximately 73% of olive oil's fat content has been shown to reduce LDL oxidation, the process by which low-density lipoprotein becomes genuinely dangerous. Unoxidized LDL is relatively benign. Oxidized LDL is what embeds in arterial walls and begins constructing the plaques that lead to cardiovascular events. A clinical trial at the University of Navarra followed 296 adults over age 65 for 3 years and found that those who consumed olive oil daily showed a 22% reduction in oxidized LDL markers compared to the control group. The specifically compelling aspect of nighttime consumption is what your liver does between midnight and approximately 3 in the morning. This is the window during which the liver conducts the majority of its cholesterol regulation work. Consuming olive oil before bed means providing your liver with a concentrated dose of healthy monounsaturated fats and polyphenols right before it enters this critical metabolic window. Think of it as equipping the night shift workers with their tools before they clock in, rather than making them search for what they need after work has already started. 1 tablespoon before bed. If you are currently on heart medications, have a direct conversation with your physician before adding this habit, not because olive oil is dangerous, but because its cholesterol modulating effects can occasionally interact with existing medication dosages. For a synergy enhancement, pair your olive oil with a small piece of dark chocolate at 85% cacao or higher. Research from the University of Lund found that the flavonols in dark chocolate and the polyphenols in olive oil work together to improve endothelial function, the health of the cells lining your blood vessels, by up to 40% compared to either compound alone. A patient in her mid-70s came to me with cholesterol numbers that had not responded adequately to dietary changes, with her cardiologist beginning to suggest statin therapy. We introduced nightly extra virgin olive oil as part of a broader approach. 8 months later, her oxidized LDL markers had dropped measurably, her nighttime blood pressure readings had improved, and the statin conversation was indefinitely postponed. She told me it felt like giving her heart a second chance. She was right. Number 5 will resonate immediately with anyone who wakes up stiff, moves slowly in the morning, or has been told that the discomfort in their joints is simply something to be managed rather than addressed. Your joints are lined with synovial tissue, a thin layer of cells that produces the lubricating fluid, allowing your bones to move smoothly against each other. Think of it as the oil seal inside a precision mechanism. After 60, that seal thins, fluid production decreases, and inflammation begins to erode the cartilage beneath. This is the biological foundation of osteoarthritis, which affects more than 32 million Americans, the overwhelming majority of whom are over 60. Oleocanthal, the same compound that acts as a natural anti-inflammatory for the brain, has been shown in research from the Biomedical Research Foundation of the Academy of Athens to specifically inhibit the inflammatory cascade that drives cartilage degradation. It targets a signaling protein called interleukin-1 beta, which is the primary chemical messenger that instructs the body to break down joint cartilage. When you block interleukin-1 beta, you do not just reduce pain, you potentially slow the structural destruction of the joint itself. A 12-week study published in the journal Nutrients found that participants with moderate knee osteoarthritis who consumed extra virgin olive oil daily reported a 41% reduction in pain scores and a 38% improvement in joint mobility compared to the control group. A 41% reduction in pain without a single prescription medication. The reason nighttime timing matters for joint health specifically is that your body's tissue repair processes, including cartilage maintenance, are regulated by growth hormone, which peaks during deep sleep in the first 2 hours after you fall asleep. Consuming olive oil before bed means the anti-inflammatory and tissue-supporting compounds are present in your bloodstream precisely when your body is attempting to repair damaged joint tissue, rather than arriving hours after the repair window has opened. 1 tablespoon 30 to 45 minutes before bed, paired with a source of vitamin C. Warm lemon water works beautifully. Vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis, and collagen is the primary structural protein in both cartilage and the synovial membrane. Together, olive oil's anti-inflammatory action and vitamin C's collagen-supporting role form a nighttime joint protocol that is simple, affordable, and supported by the evidence. Number 4 will surprise anyone who believes that gut health is primarily a concern for younger people or for those with obvious digestive symptoms. Your gut's overnight behavior has direct implications for inflammation, immunity, cognitive function, and how well you age at every level. Research from the American Gut Project found that adults over 70 have on average 35% less microbial diversity in their gut compared to adults in their 30s. This loss of diversity, a condition researchers call gut dysbiosis, is directly linked to increased systemic inflammation, weakened immune function, impaired nutrient absorption, and even cognitive decline. Your gut is not simply a digestive tube, it is the central regulator of your immune system and a primary driver of the inflammatory state that either supports or undermines every other system in your body. Extra virgin olive oil functions as one of the most powerful prebiotic substances identified in nutritional research. The polyphenols it contains, specifically hydroxytyrosol and oleuropein, are not absorbed in the small intestine. They travel intact to the large intestine where they selectively nourish and stimulate the growth of beneficial bacterial species, particularly lactobacillus and bifidobacterium, while simultaneously suppressing populations of harmful bacteria. A study conducted at the University of Jan found that participants who consumed olive oil polyphenols for 30 days showed a significant increase in beneficial bacterial species and a measurable reduction in gut inflammatory markers. Nighttime is the optimal window for this gut restoration effect because the digestive system undergoes what researchers call the migrating motor complex during sleep, a series of coordinated muscular contractions that clean the intestines between meals. This cleansing cycle is most active during sleep, and having olive oil present in your system during this overnight process amplifies its gut-supporting effects considerably. 1 tablespoon before bed paired with a small cup of warm chamomile tea creates a particularly effective combination. Chamomile contains apigenin, a flavonoid that supports gut lining integrity, while olive oil provides the prebiotic polyphenols. Together, they support what gastroenterologists call gut barrier function, the capacity of the intestinal wall to prevent harmful bacteria and inflammatory compounds from leaking into the bloodstream, where they can drive systemic inflammation throughout the entire body. Number 3 addresses a topic that many aging adults find deeply personal: muscle loss. And after a certain age, your muscles become one of the most critical determinants, not just of how you feel, but of how long you maintain genuine independence. Here is the statistic that every person over 60 deserves to understand clearly. After age 60, the average person loses between 1 and 2% of their muscle mass every single year without deliberate intervention. By 75, that can represent a 30 to 35% reduction in total muscle mass compared to peak years. With that loss comes dramatically increased fall risk, reduced metabolic rate, insulin resistance, and a progressive decline in the functional capacity that makes independent living possible. This accelerated loss is partly driven by a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. Your aging muscles become progressively less responsive to the protein you consume. In a 30-year-old, a high-protein meal triggers robust muscle protein synthesis. In a 70-year-old, the same meal produces a substantially blunted response. The muscles, in a real physiological sense, have become hard of hearing to the signals that instruct them to grow and repair. This is where olive oil's effects on muscle biology become genuinely surprising. Research from the University of Connecticut found that olive oil polyphenols, specifically all-European, can directly stimulate the production of a hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1 in muscle tissue. Insulin-like growth factor 1 is one of the primary signals that instructs muscle cells to synthesize new protein and resist breakdown. The study found a 25% increase in muscle protein synthesis rates in older adults who consumed olive oil polyphenols for 8 weeks compared to a placebo group. Additionally, extra virgin olive oil appears to reduce the activity of a protein called myostatin, which functions essentially as a biological brake on muscle growth. As we age, myostatin activity tends to increase, further accelerating the muscle loss cycle. Olive oil's polyphenols appear to partially release that brake, allowing the body to better maintain and rebuild muscle tissue during the overnight protein synthesis window that coincides with deep sleep. For maximum muscle benefit, consume your tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil approximately 30 minutes before bed, paired with a small serving of protein. A few ounces of cottage cheese, a boiled egg, or a small portion of Greek yogurt provides casein protein that releases slowly over several hours, meaning it is still available to your muscles at 2 and 3 in the morning when growth hormone peaks and muscle repair is most active. Together with olive oil's ability to enhance the anabolic response, this pairing creates the most accessible nighttime muscle preservation protocol available to people over 60. A patient came to me, a retired firefighter in his early 70s, having lost significant grip strength. He was struggling to open jars, carry groceries, and rise from a chair without pushing off with both hands. He was not simply physically diminished, he was emotionally shaken because his identity had always been built around capability and strength. We introduced nightly olive oil with a small protein source alongside a simple resistance exercise program. At his 6-month appointment, his grip strength had improved by 18%. He had regained 4 pounds of lean muscle mass, and he told me that he had carried all the grocery bags from the car in one trip for the first time in 3 years. That is what we are actually trying to protect. Not a number on a lab panel. The specific, concrete experiences of daily independence that make life worth living fully. Number 2 addresses something that is silently undermining the health of millions of older adults every single night without their awareness or their doctor's focused attention: blood sugar regulation during sleep. Here is what most people, and genuinely many physicians, do not give adequate attention. Blood sugar fluctuates significantly during sleep. In adults with insulin resistance, which affects more than 50% of Americans over 65 whether diagnosed or not, blood sugar can spike in the early morning hours through a process called the dawn phenomenon. Between approximately 4 and 8 in the morning, the liver releases stored glucose in anticipation of waking. In a healthy metabolic system, insulin manages this surge smoothly. In an insulin-resistant system, it produces a significant spike that, repeated night after night and year after year, contributes to cellular aging, vascular damage, and dramatically increased risk of type 2 diabetes and cognitive decline. Extra virgin olive oil consumed before bed addresses this problem through multiple simultaneous pathways. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care found that adding olive oil to an evening meal reduced the post-meal blood glucose response by up to 22% compared to a control meal without olive oil. The mechanisms include slowing gastric emptying, meaning food is released from the stomach more gradually into the intestine, preventing sharp glucose rises. Olive oil also improves insulin sensitivity in muscle and liver cells through the action of oleic acid on cellular membrane receptors. A particularly important finding comes from research at the University of Naples, which showed that olive oil polyphenols improve mitochondrial efficiency in muscle cells. Mitochondria are the energy-generating structures inside every cell, and when they function poorly, cells struggle to process glucose effectively. The overflow damages blood vessels and nerves in the cumulative pattern that underlies both diabetes complications and accelerated vascular aging. Improving mitochondrial function is not a minor adjustment. It addresses one of the root mechanisms of metabolic deterioration. For blood sugar stabilization specifically, consume your tablespoon of olive oil 20 to 30 minutes before your last small meal or snack of the evening. For additional support, pair it with a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar stirred into warm water. Research from Arizona State University found that apple cider vinegar consumed before meals reduced post-meal blood glucose levels by 19% in people with insulin resistance. Combined with olive oil's gastric slowing and insulin sensitizing effects, this pairing creates a remarkably simple and remarkably powerful tool for overnight metabolic protection. And now we arrive at number 1, the benefit that made me sit back when I first encountered the research and genuinely ask why this was not being communicated more widely. The benefit that, if you take nothing else from today, is worth understanding clearly and acting on. Number 1 is brain protection and overnight brain cleansing. The glymphatic system is one of the most significant discoveries in neuroscience in the past 2 decades, and yet most people have never heard of it. While you sleep, your brain physically contracts slightly, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flow through the spaces between brain cells in what functions as a powerful overnight cleaning cycle. This glymphatic system flushes out the metabolic waste products that accumulate during the day, including a protein called beta amyloid, which is the primary toxic protein that forms the plaques found in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease. Without sufficient high-quality sleep and a properly functioning glymphatic system, beta amyloid accumulates night after night, year after year, decade after decade, until the burden becomes catastrophic. Researchers at Temple University, led by Dr. Domenico Pratico, published findings showing that oleocanthal, the anti-inflammatory compound in extra virgin olive oil, can stimulate the mechanisms by which the brain clears both beta amyloid and another toxic protein called tau. The researchers observed a 50% increase in the efficiency of this clearance process with regular oleocanthal exposure, not a marginal improvement, 50%. The reason nighttime consumption is not merely preferable but essential for this benefit is that the glymphatic system operates almost exclusively during sleep. It is essentially inactive during waking hours. If you want olive oil's brain protective compounds present and active when your brain's cleaning cycle runs, you must consume it before sleep. Morning consumption does not deliver the same neurological benefit. The timing is not a minor detail, it is the entire biological mechanism. For maximum brain benefit, take 1 tablespoon of high-quality extra virgin olive oil, ideally with a polyphenol content above 300 milligrams per kilogram as indicated on certified quality labels, 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Sleep in a lateral position, on your side rather than your back. Research from Stony Brook University found that the glymphatic system functions up to 25% more efficiently in the lateral sleeping position. This is not a complicated adjustment. It costs nothing and changes the efficiency of the very mechanism that olive oil is supporting. Pair your olive oil with a small serving of blueberries or a teaspoon of ground turmeric mixed into warm almond milk. Blueberries contain anthocyanins shown to cross the blood-brain barrier and reduce neuroinflammation directly. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, may further inhibit amyloid aggregation. Together, this trio, olive oil, blueberries, and turmeric, represents one of the most evidence-supported nighttime brain protection protocols available to aging adults today without a single prescription required. A patient I think of often when this topic comes up was a woman in her late 70s who came to my office frightened. Her mother had developed Alzheimer's disease. Her older sister had been diagnosed 4 years earlier. She sat across from me and said that she felt like she was simply waiting for it to happen to her. We spoke for a long time. We discussed everything the research suggests can support brain health, sleep quality, physical movement, social connection, and nutrition. Among the changes she made, she began taking a tablespoon of high polyphenol extra virgin olive oil every night before bed, paired with a small bowl of blueberries. 2 years later, she came back for her follow-up appointment, and she told me that for the first time in years, she had stopped feeling like a passenger in her own health story. Her memory remained sharp. Her sleep had improved significantly, and she said something I will not forget. She said she felt like she was actually fighting back. That is everything. That is exactly what this information is for. Here is what I need you to take from today before we close. You are not too old. You are not too far along. The sleep improvements, the heart protection, the joint restoration, the gut healing, the muscle preservation, the blood sugar stabilization, and the extraordinary brain cleansing benefits of extra virgin olive oil come with no age limit. 1 tablespoon every night before bed, taken from a cold-pressed extra virgin source with the peppery bite that confirms the oleocanthal is present. That is the entire protocol. It costs less than $1 per day. It requires no prescription, no equipment, no gym membership, and no dramatic life restructuring. Your ability to carry your own groceries, to remember names and faces without searching, to wake up without stiffness announcing the start of every morning, to sleep through the night and wake up having actually repaired. These are not luxuries reserved for the young. They are biological possibilities available to you right now, supported by research that deserves more attention than it typically receives in a 12-minute medical appointment. The bottle has been sitting in your kitchen this whole time. What changes tonight is what you decide to do with it.